talk about a powerful mid-season finale. Definitely a very powerful mid-season finale. Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is going to be my review for the mid-season finale of The Walking Dead, Season 5, Episode 8, Coda, and I was really looking forward to this episode. I was really looking forward to it. It looked like it was going to be amazing. The way they were hyping it up, they were making it look bigger than what happened at the prison last year, even bigger than Terminus. That's how big they were making this out to be, and, I knew someone huge was dying tonight, so I was definitely, interested in seeing who was going to die tonight. And let's just say someone huge definitely died. Someone huge died definitely. And let's just get to this episode because overall, I thought that this episode was crazy. Definitely the best episode of the season. By far the best episode of the season. Absolutely crazy. It actually had me crying, which I didn't expect to happen. This episode actually had me crying at points, which I liked, because I don't cry a lot at things. When a show can make me cry, that's when you know they're doing their job. So let's just get to this episode, because I thought this episode was amazing. So, we open up with Bob. You remember that cop that knocked out Sasha last episode? Yeah, he is trying to get free of his cuffs. He's not successful, because Rick gets to the police car, and he runs, and, he's basically telling him to stop and everything, but he's not listening to him, and he's basically just being childish, and after several warnings, Rick runs him down, and Bob begs him for help, back to the hospital. Rick denies him, and Bob starts to tell him that they're all doomed, that they'll die trying to take the hospital, because he doesn't want them to, take control of this hospital. We know that this cop pretty much betrayed them, and we know that he's not to be trusted, and Rick knows this. So, knowing that he's not getting through to him, Rick just shoots him in the head, and I love what Rick says. He's just like, shut up. I love that part. I like that The Walking Dead, even with such a dramatic episode like this, can have humor in there. I think it's definitely very well done. They handle it well, and that scene, in my opinion, was definitely very funny. I really enjoyed the way they started that. So, we cut to the school, not far from the church, and of course, we all were wondering what happened to Gabriel. Where'd Gabriel go? What his plan is? And we still don't really know after this episode, but we see walkers are amassing by the doors, and we're watching Father Gabriel inspect the scene, and he finds photos, a Bible with Mary's name in it, and then finally the remnants of a human leg on a barbecue pit. He angrily throws the pit over, crying, and as he does so, the walkers free themselves and chase him. So overall, so far, even in the first few minutes of the episode, it's already very crazy, and I love that. Sorry guys, I'm just rating this episode. But, basically, they find, he angrily throws the pit over, crying, and as he does so, the walkers free themselves and chase him. He heads into the woods, where he leans against a tree that's been marked with a cut. He continues on towards the church, arriving there and stopping briefly in front of the post where his Punishers had tried to get in, where walkers surrounding him. If you remember, there were those people that had tried to get into the church, but he didn't let them come in. Yeah, that's basically where they tried to, kind of break in. So, definitely, this is very emotional for him. He calls for Carl and Michonne to let him in as the walkers build up against the barriers placed by the survivors, and Carl and Michonne have to chop open bits of wood they nailed the door shut with, but ultimately get him in just in time, and a small horde of walkers make their way in with Carl and Michonne, mostly Michonne. Michonne just is back to badass, she really hasn't had too much to do this season, but this right here, this was Michonne's return, okay? This was her return to being a badass. So, they start taking them out one by one. The building is quickly overrun. The pair have to hide with Judith in Gabriel's office. And Carl heads outside through the hole in Gabriel's floor, because, there was that hole in the floor. And that's followed by Michonne and Gabriel. And outside, they take the walkers stuck to the spikes before boarding up the church with the walkers inside. So, that was definitely very crazy. So then we get to the old building where the rest of the survivors are waiting for Rick, and we see right away that Sasha's fine. She's not dead. I thought that Sasha was going to die, but she's fine. And I thought she had gotten shot, but no, she just got, like, knocked out, basically, so she's fine. So basically, Rick returns and reports that he had to kill Bob, and Sasha's pretty much relieved. She's happy about this. So they go to talk to the remaining cops, and both of them agree to help Rick get in with minimal violence, saying they'll lie to Dawn and tell her that Bob was taken by walkers. That's basically the plan. And I think that's a good plan overall, that they're basically going to lie to her. So then we go to Dawn, and back at the hospital, Dawn's trying to reach her officers on the radio, worried about the gunfire, and Beth asks her if something is wrong. The two chat a bit while Beth cleans Dawn's office, and in the office, she finds a photo of Dawn with Captain Hansen, who we find out is the officer who used to be in charge. And I thought this was interesting because it made us care about Dawn more. And one of the things I love that the show does is when they make you care for their villain. Dawn is our main antagonist right now. So the fact that they made us care for her, I liked, because Dawn basically says that he was her mentor and friend and that she misses him, and Beth asks what happened, and Dawn tells her that she lost sight of the risk and benefit analysis of the run, and the officers below him stopped backing him up. So basically, that's what ended up happening to him. So back at the church, Carl and Michonne are sitting with Gabriel and Judith waiting, and Gabriel missed that he went to the school, that he had to be sure they were telling him the truth, and the walkers started to get through the boarded up doors. But before they could, Abraham's group shows up in the fire truck and dives right into the doors. And this is great because they all reunite. So you can already see that some of the group is starting to get back together. This episode was very much like No Sanctuary, in that it was the end of basically, it was basically the end of everyone, the end of the split storyline. I'm just going to say it right now, basically everyone got back together. But this was great to see because, everyone's back together and everything. And Michonne tells Maggie that Beth's alive, and my only thing here is, and this is sort of a complaint of the season, why did Maggie not really care that Beth is alive? I mean, she seemed not really to care, but when Maggie finds out that Beth's alive, she has, like, the biggest look on her face, she has, like, the biggest smile on her face. Michonne looks happy to deliver the news to her, like, she is relieved at this, because I think the thing is that Maggie didn't really want to think about Beth being kidnapped, and she was so happy being reunited with Glenn that that's why she didn't really think about Beth being kidnapped, because she wanted to just think, she's alive and she's strong. So the others went to get Beth at Grady Memorial, and the group collectively decides to go get her. So at the hospital, one of the police officers starts berating another aide for not probably stitching a hole in his sleeve. Beth looks on, the man trying to draft her into service, but Dawn calls him away. So Beth sits on the edge of the elevator shaft looking down into it, and Dawn comes and they start to talk about the situation. And I thought this was overall a good scene. And if you can tell, guys, at this point, nothing really is happening in this episode. I mean, besides Joe getting killed and the walkers, not too much is happening. And I'm like, okay, this is the mid-season finale. Why is not much happening? I knew that something huge was going to happen at the end of this episode. I knew it. So basically, Dawn, they have this conversation, and Dawn holds the fact that the others don't know she killed the rapist cop over her head. And one of her officers walks in, catching them into the conversation, and I like what Beth tells her, that the world isn't going to get magically better. Dawn wants to treat these people. She wants to make them, quote-unquote, better. But the thing is, she can't. And I like that Beth said that to her, because it's true. You can't fix people. Okay, these people, some of them are not thinking. Some of them don't really, they're just surviving, and she can't really do anything to protect them. And I like that Beth said that to her, because I agree what Beth said. So she pulls a gun on him, she pulls a gun on this guy, and who walks in, and the two argue. He comes after her, knocking her gun down the elevator shaft, and the two fight. He starts to get the better of her. Beth steps in to help. When he's distracted by her, gives Dawn the opportunity to regain the advantage between the two of them. They throw him down into the shaft, and that was crazy. I'm like, holy shit, this is insane. Like, that was just crazy what was going on there. So I was not expecting that at all, and that was definitely pretty insane. So Dawn comes into Carol's room, where Beth is propped up against a wall, and obviously Dawn's kind of impressed by what Beth just did, obviously, because she could take that guy out like that. Like, she's obviously very impressed. So Dawn tells her it's okay to cry, and Beth says she doesn't cry anymore. And Dawn is drinking, and it really shows the transformation that Beth has gone through this season. Beth used to be a very emotional person. She used to hold things a lot. She used to kind of be the annoying one. And now she is just as, she's basically like all them. She doesn't really give a shit anymore. That's basically her mode, is that she realizes that, you know what? There's no saving the world. You gotta do what you gotta do. If you gotta kill someone, you gotta kill someone. If you have to take someone out, you have to take someone out. And I like that, Beth is like that now. So Beth tells her that she didn't cover for Beth to protect Beth, she did it to protect herself. Beth tells her that she's going to leave just like Noah, but Dawn says that Noah will be back, they always do, and that she knows Beth knows Carol, and that they should both stay. And I'm kind of thinking, is Dawn actually going to get her way here? I was kind of thinking that, because it kind of seemed like Dawn was sort of getting her way. It sort of seemed like it, and I'll talk about why a little bit later. But she tells Beth that the two dirty cops she had a hand in killing were bad people, and the world didn't lose anything when they died. So on a roof near a hospital, Sasha has a sniper rifle, and Tyrese doesn't want her beating herself up about Bob's betrayal and death, and he tells Sasha the story of how he pretended to kill Martin, but that he couldn't, and then the man turned up at the church, and it ultimately was Sasha who killed him. He didn't want to do it, but Sasha did. So he tells Sasha that maybe they haven't changed by the world, which is good. And she says that it's good Tyrese's, but she can't be anymore. And I really like that scene because I really like the, sibling bonding between Tyrese and Sasha this season. It's been one of my favorite parts of the season. The transformation of the two of them I've loved, especially because someone like Sasha, who has not really, think about Sasha, think about where she was in season 4. We knew nothing about her. We knew that she was Tyrese's sister. We knew she was infected by a virus, and that's literally all we knew. But she has had so much development this season, and I love that. I love that they've given Sasha so much development. That's one of the things this season has done very, very well, is the character development. They know how to develop characters, and they've done it so, so well, and I thought they did a great job with that scene. I love that scene. I thought that was a fantastic scene. I love what they did there. So Daryl has joined her on the roof, and Rick is on the street below and approaches the police car with his hands up. And I thought this scene was amazing. Andrew Lincoln's performance, this was awesome. I actually loved that Rick didn't just want to kill these cops one by one. If you remember that, he wanted to do that, but that was not the plan. He introduced himself to the cops, and I'm saying to myself, there is no way these cops are going to reason with Rick. They're cops. They're not going to reason with him. He introduces to them, and he kind of makes them a proposal. And I thought this was actually good what he says. They tell him to lay down his weapon, and he does so. But the snipers have rifle scopes trained on the cops' heads, and the officer approaches Rick, and he proposes the even trade. Basically, here's his trade. They take 2 of his people, he will take 2 of theirs. And I think that makes sense. And this very much reminded me of last year's mid-season finale when Rick was trying to reason with the governor, when he was trying to get the governor to basically, listen to him and listen to reason and basically get the governor to be on his side. That's very much what this reminded me of, was when he was trying to, propose to the governor what they should do. And I don't know if that was the intent, if they wanted us to feel like that scene was like this, but that definitely reminded me very much of this, this scene reminded me very much of that, and I thought that was very well done, because I definitely really love that scene, and that scene was amazing, and it was even more amazing here. So basically, when the officers ask where Rick's people are, Sasha takes out a walker with her sniper rifle to show they're close, and Rick says he'll wait while they radio in. So it seems like they have a good plan going on. But I'm just saying to myself, nothing's happened yet in this episode. Oh shit, someone's gonna die. Someone still has to die. I actually forgot that someone still has to die, because of course, what were we all thinking about in this episode? This is going to be the one where someone dies. That's what we were thinking about. We weren't thinking about Rick making this deal with them. That's not what we really were, going into this episode. Going into this episode, here's what I was thinking. Holy shit, who's going to die? That's what I was thinking. And this next scene, I love, because it perfectly sets up the tension. It perfectly sets up the tension, and it perfectly, makes you feel very, very uneasy. So back at the hospital, Beth is getting dressed in her regular clothes. She's hiding scissors in her wrist wrap, and Carol is now awake. We don't know how, but Carol's awake, and Beth wheels her out to a hallway flanked by all of Dawn's officers and followed by the doctor, and Rick and his group are led into the hallway, and everyone collectively hoisters their weapons. They put them down because they've come to this agreement with Rick. This was, what they said to do. So the two cops lie about Lamson's death as, they lie about Bob's death as promised. They did what Rick said, and I was surprised at actually doing what Rick said because I didn't think these cops, were to be trusted. But it seems like no, only Bob wasn't meant to be trusted, and Dawn. So Dawn's voice wavers when she acknowledges the fact they trade the male officer for Carol and then the female for Beth. However, it seems like everything's okay, but Dawn asks for one more request, and that's that they take Noah, that Noah stays as well. She says, wait a second, I need Noah. And I'm like, this is not going to end well. I thought Noah was going to die in the scene. Now, if Noah died, I would not be that affected by it, because we've known Noah for like 4 episodes. I would not be that affected if Noah was the one to die here. I wouldn't be affected at all, really. So I thought that's what they were going to do. If that's what they would have done, I would not be very happy right now. And I'm going to talk about why. She says that one of her, by mistake, she says that one of her, by mistake, is a reaction, and officers died trying to save him. And when Rick starts to object, Noah volunteers to stay. He's okay with staying. And Beth goes to hug him goodbye. And when Dawn tells him, I knew you'd be back, Beth ends up stabbing her. This scene was just, oh my god, this is when my jaw was on the, my jaw dropped here. Dawn tells him, I knew you'd be back. And she basically is about to, it seems like everything's going to be okay. It seems like Dawn's going to, it seems like Noah's going to go back. But Beth ends up stabbing Dawn to death. Dawn shoots her in the head, and Beth is dead. Beth is dead. And let me say something. I knew going into this episode they were going to kill off Beth because they talked about it. They said that everyone pretty much thought that Beth would be the one to die. I talked to people saying, hey, who do you think's going to die in The Walking Dead? And most people said it was going to be Beth. And I have to agree. I thought it was going to be Beth as well. It really does not surprise me that they decided to kill off Beth. But I'm going to talk about why it is very effective. Because Daryl shoots Dawn in retaliation, just to make sure that she's dead. So Dawn's dead and Beth's dead. So our main antagonist is dead and Beth is now dead. So basically their whole mission was pointless because the whole point of this mission was to rescue Beth and it's failed. Yes, they rescued Carol, but it partially, succeeded, but it partially failed as well because Beth is gone. So the group's getting ready to leave and there's part of me that's thinking, is Maggie going to find out about this? Because I wasn't sure if they were going to take a while for this, Basically, the cops are starting to move on Rick's group, but the female cop who had been with them stands down the troops. I just thought they were going to just take out the cops one by one at this point. Looked like they were just going to, take them out one by one, but they don't end up doing that. Basically, they say that it was only Dawn that was the problem. If you remember, everyone was pretty much saying that Dawn ruined the hospital. So now that Dawn's gone, the hospital's going to be fine. The cops are going to be fine. So the officers offer Rick and the group sanctuary in the hospital, and Rick refuses. He says, we're not staying here. Obviously, they're not staying there. Beth died, and they'd all probably get PTSD because of it if they stayed there. I mean, come on. Like, seriously. So he offers instead to take anyone from the hospital who wants to leave. He says, anyone who wants to leave, come with us. And a couple of them do go. Abraham's group arrives in late and it's probably like the worst time they could have arrived because right when they are there, Maggie, this was the scene that had me crying, okay? I don't know why, but this scene had me legitimately crying. Daryl is carrying Beth's dead body, and you see Maggie crying hysterically. Obviously, she's crying hysterically. Her sister just died. She's crying. Plus, she just found out that her sister could possibly be alive, and now the hope is gone. That she is, like, really upset now. And Glenn sees Beth one last time making her way to hospital doors. Maggie's breaking down. They see Daryl carrying her body out. You can see Daryl's tearing up, and everyone is really upset that Beth is alive. And people want to stay hopeful, but I don't think they're going to stay hopeful now. And I think this pretty much makes them realize that there really is no hope. This show always tries to give us hope, but there really is no hope. And I think this was an amazing finale. I love the way they did this finale. Was this as good as last year's season 4 finale, no, it was not as good as the mid-season finale. It was not as good as Too Far Gone when the prison exploded. That was just too amazing, okay? It was not as good as that, but this was the best episode of the season. I thought this episode was amazing. The way it was executed was very, very well done. Let's talk about this episode for a second, because I definitely want to talk about a few things here. First of all, I want to talk about the season in general, but first of all, let's talk about what's going to happen with Beth's death. A lot of people have said, if Beth dies, it's not going to do anything. Beth was not that big of a character, but let me say something. Beth transformed, and every single character this season did this as well. Every single character this season has transformed into something new. Every single character, really, they have. I mean, think about it. Sasha has been developed so much. Abraham, Rosita, and Eugene have been developed a lot. You know, we saw that this half of the season we've seen that a lot. Bob, who died, was developed a lot. Carol was developed a lot. Every single character this season was developed a lot. And really, this half of the season was all about developing the characters. It was about developing them, making them new characters, making us care for them more. And Beth was one of those characters. I personally didn't really give a shit about Beth before this season. I thought Beth was an okay character. I thought she was a fun character, but I wouldn't have ever thought that Beth's, death would be as big as it really was. And it really is big, because in my opinion, Beth's death is going to change a lot of things. First of all, Daryl is going to be pretty much broken now. He's not going to be happy at all because of what just happened. Because Beth was one of his best friends. Someone who he wanted to protect. This whole mission was about getting back Beth. Yes, Carol as well, but this all started because why did Daryl and Carol go on that mission? To find Beth. That's why this happened. So, basically, Daryl's going to be crushed now because his entire mission failed, and he's going to be really upset. And the thing is, here, let me say about this. Why didn't we just stick with Rick's plan? Like, if they were to stick with Rick's plan, none of this would have happened. And I like that they remind us of this, because they showed that in the previews, actually, on the previous thing. And it makes sense why they showed that, because if they would have stuck with Rick's plan, I believe they showed it on the previous thing, I don't remember, but if they would have stuck with Rick's plan, then this probably wouldn't have happened, and Beth probably wouldn't have died. So, also, who else is going to be affected is Maggie. Maggie has not had a lot to do this season thus far. Yes, she has stuff to do with Glenn. Yes, the two of them have had stuff to, cute scenes together and everything. Yes, they're reunited. But besides a few scenes with Glenn, Maggie has not had a lot to do. So, now that her sister's dead, we're definitely going to develop Maggie more. I can already tell that we're going to develop her more, and we're going to find out what's going on with her. Now, let's talk about the other side of this. Father Gabriel, Carl, Carl and Michonne, they are there as well, so we know what's going to happen with them. Everyone pretty much knows. Everyone's back now as a group, so even though they're all back as a group, now they have to find a new home, because the church is not safe anymore. The church is not safe because of the walkers, and I think the group is heading to Washington now. However, I don't know. I believe they said that the second half of the season is all going to be about going to Washington. However, Washington, in my opinion, is pointless now, because the whole point of going to Washington was to find out answers. And since Eugene doesn't have any of those answers, what's the point of going to Washington? Let's talk about the season overall, though, so far. This is only the first half of the season. Second half of the season will be in February, but let's talk about what I think of the season so far. This has probably been the best season I've seen of The Walking Dead. We've had amazing action sequences, amazing character development. We've had some amazing singly focused episodes. Like, they found out how to do a successful single character focus episode. Slabtown was good, but the real achievement was Self-Help and the one they did with and Consume. Those were really the two really big achievements, were those two. And Coda, by the way, was the perfect title for this episode, because it really ends the journey of, it makes sense a lot, because some people were kind of speculating why it's called Coda. First of all, I think it's called Coda because of what happened, because Beth could sing and everything, and that's sort of like her talent, is her singing. That's kind of what she was known for at first, was just sort of the one that sang with Maggie, but now she's not like that anymore. Beth is going to be known as one of the characters that transformed the most, in my opinion, and I think now we need to see that development with Father Gabriel. We don't know everything we need to know about Father Gabriel, so I'm hoping we get some more development with him, definitely, and I'm thinking that the second half of the season is going to get that development. But let me know what you guys saw of this finale, mid-season finale. I am in shock right now, guys. I can't believe I actually cried. I didn't think I'd actually cry to the death of Beth, but I did, and I knew it was coming. But when you know a death is coming, and they still handle it very, very well, you know, and you cry, you know they handled it very, very well. So I gotta commend Robert Kirkman. Just an amazing, amazing job in this episode. By far the best episode of the season. Let me know what you guys saw this episode. Where are Rick and the group heading next? I don't know. How is Daryl going to be affected by Beth's death? He's going to be extremely affected. How is Maggie going to be affected? What's going on with Father Gabriel? I definitely hope that we find out more about what's going on with him. We didn't get enough of that. But that's basically my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you guys in my next video. Also, I didn't see who went with Rick and his group, but what's gonna happen with I think a couple people from the couple cops went with him. Are they gonna stay with him? What's gonna happen there? Should they trust them? We'll have to see. That's my review. Hope you guys enjoy it. I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for, I believe, Lord of the Rings: Return of the King, because I'm watching it after I'm done with this review. So I will see you guys for that, okay? By the way, guys, one other thing. If you guys noticed, my Girl Meets World Season 1, Episode 1 review was deleted because of a copyright strike. I have no idea what that was about. I think it was an unintentional copyright strike because I didn't play any music or anything. And I really hope YouTube doesn't block this video because I'm going to say this, but I have no idea why that was copyrighted. I sent them an email. I told them I think it was a false copyright strike. But if my account gets deleted, guys, it gets deleted, okay? I really don't want my account to get deleted, but if it gets deleted, I'm just telling you guys right now that is why. I hope it doesn't get deleted, though, because I don't want to have to get rid of all these videos, but I'll see you guys in my next video, if there is a next video. Okay, bye.